Hello everyone. Hi, I'm Minnie King and welcome back to my podcast. And thank you for joining me. So on today's episode, I am working in the Niagara area. So I'm going to focus on this area in terms of real estate. So welcome back to the show. And behind the sold sign is really what I'm kind of going to talk about and what goes on behind the scenes of real estate. So we're going to talk about real estate, lifestyle, what's happening in the market, what's happening in the world in general. So, but in today's episode, I want to focus on buyers. So buyers are, right now, a lot of people are thinking, and people ask me, like, is it the right time to buy real estate? And what I typically say is, it's never the perfect timing to buy real estate, right? It's not, you can't time, real estate in terms of when is the best time, because there's so many different variables. And so I tell people, is it the right time for you? Is it the right time for you in your life to buy real estate? Because at the end of the day, we don't have a crystal ball, and we don't know what's going to happen with the market. Like we can, project things, but we really don't know, what's going to happen with the market at any given moment. There's so many different things. So there's a lot of noise right now. There's a lot of fear in the news. There's fear with what's going on in the Middle East. There's a lot of geopolitical things that are affecting the economy. People are, having a hard time with, affordability, affording even the basics of food and, day-to-day life. So, it is very challenging for people to be in a headspace to really be thinking about buying real estate. But, there's always a quote that I've always, talked about, and it's this. The quote is that you don't buy real estate, you don't wait to buy real estate, you buy real estate and wait. So it's a long-term strategy when you're talking about real estate, right? It is something that, is like an investment. It's like anything that you invest in. Real estate is part of your portfolio. It's like if you want to invest in stocks and bonds, real estate is, part of that portfolio that you want to invest in, because it's a long-term game, right? It's like if I buy real estate, it's going to, in the long term, it's going to, be a good investment. I'm going to get a return on that investment. And the other thing I tell people is that you need a place to live. So, real estate's great as an investment, but it's also a place to live. So, that's, is it a right time? There's never a right time. When I bought my first condo, the interest rates were at 18%. So, it was crazy. Nobody really could afford, and we were making a lot less money back then. So there's not a really good time to say, oh, this is a great time. It's never going to be the perfect market, right? So, that's the truth about real estate. It's not about the timing. It is looking at, is this a good opportunity for me in terms of my life? Is this what I want for my life? Is this a plan that I want for my future? Do I want a family? Do I want to, have the goal of home ownership? So that's really, really important, is that if that's what you want, if that's a dream of yours to own a home, then you can make that happen. And, sometimes you say, you hear, well, it's not a good time. Well, it's obviously for buyers. Like some people will say, well, it's, the market's terrible right now. But is it really? Is the market really terrible? Or is it a terrible, maybe it's not as good for a seller, but it might be good for a buyer to get into the market. It's a great opportunity. So, you have way more to choose from. You have way more inventory, and, you have more room for negotiating. You can put conditions on your offers. You won't be in multiple offer situations. So, for many people, that's a huge advantage that, as a buyer, you have that buying power, so that you can go in and you can negotiate. You can say, these are the comps, I'm going to go in with a better offer. And, you know, there's a lot of sellers that maybe won't reduce their price, but if they get something in writing, there's a great opportunity that, or a good chance that they will look at that offer and sign it back. And even if it's a lowball offer, they might be in a situation where they really do want to sell, right? So, you know, sometimes a slow market is a great opportunity. Like in the stock market, there's a saying, sell high, buy low, right? So we're in a market right now that is such a good opportunity. Even though interest rates are a little higher, they're not as low as, you know, COVID time, but, you know, it's very rare that you're going to get interest rates at like 1% and stuff like that. So you have to look at it as, you know, it's not going to be the ideal situation. It's not all going to come together for me timing wise to get into the market. So, you know, it's looking at the whole situation and seeing an opportunity. So, you know, the other thing is, especially when it comes to first-time home buyers, first-time home buyers is really difficult. But if you're a first-time home buyer, there's a lot of things that you can do to research all the things that the government can, you know, there's a lot of incentives that the government, you know, gives for first-time home buyers. Even if you, like with AI now, you can research anything. So, you know, you can use your RRSPs, you can use TFSA, you can use, and in terms of like your financial situation, you want to make sure that you're going to benefit from all the incentives, like the HST rebate now that the government's offering. You can look at that. Look at the Canada.ca website, and you can look at all the buyers' incentives for first-time home buyers. So, you know, I remember when I was buying a home, like it was difficult because, you know, how do you save in this environment, right? Like everything's so expensive. But sometimes as a first-time home buyer and you're younger, you want to be able to, you know, save for that down payment. You have to sacrifice certain things in your life. You can't be traveling and doing everything that you want because you can't, you know, be having this like high style lifestyle, like this lifestyle, and be able to save for a down payment on a home. You have to sacrifice somewhere, like, you know, maybe not have the Starbucks, maybe not go on that trip. You know, don't buy as many clothes, like all those things that you have to do to sacrifice in order to come up with that down payment, right? And so, you know, I remember having to, like, the other thing that I did was I would put away like 10% of my paycheck when I was working full time, get it automatically put into a savings account, and then you would, you know, just keep saving and put that aside, put it in RSP, put it in a TFSA, and make sure that you are saving at least 10 to 20% of your pay for a down payment on a home. And that is really, really, you know, financially, you have to look at, you know, what is my plan in order to save for that down payment? And, you know, that is very key because unless you have a down payment, then you're not going to be able to buy a new home. And the other thing is really looking at your situation and saying, what is it that how much am I going to need for a down payment? Because a lot of times people think they need 20% and you don't. You only need 5% to, as a down payment on a home. And, you know, so if you are really serious about home ownership, you should be looking at, you know, shopping around for a mortgage broker, right? Don't just go to the bank and say, you know, I want a mortgage. They're not going to give you the best, you know, deals. They're not going to shop around for you. They're just going to, you know, tell you this is the interest rate the bank is offering. So you really want to talk to, you know, some mortgage agents and see what your situation is financially. You know, understand your budget. What is your budget? What can you afford? You know, and get the pre-approval first. And, you know, so that's all to do with your planning. So you have to start with the plan. This is what I want. This is the goal. This is the plan. This is how I'm going to get there. So, you know, and then the other thing is, what do you really need to, like, as far as your first home? I started with a condo. I bought a condo and then I moved up, right? Like I bought the condo and then I sold that and I got a bigger home and then I got a bigger home after that. So you have to start small. You have to start basically, you know, small steps to get to your goal. That's really, really important. And, you know, when you think about it, buying is very emotional. It's a lot of, there's a lot of, I don't know what happened there, but something happened. there's a lot of unknowns, and it's a huge pressure for a lot of people. But if you plan it out and you know what you're doing and you're saving and you're making sure that you're doing all the things in order to, get into the market, you're not going to be as stressed out, right? You're going to have it all planned out. And I think that is one of the most important things in terms of buying a home. And, even if it's like 6 months to a year, right? You're thinking maybe in a couple of years I might buy a house. But these are the things I have to start doing in order to, get to that place that I'm going to be able to afford something. So, that's basically what I tell my clients is don't wait for the perfect time. Like it's never, ever going to be perfect. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't know where the interest rates are going. They could go up. So then you're going to miss that opportunity. So if your life is, you want this, then you should go for it and you shouldn't wait for the perfect moment because like I said, it's like looking for a life partner. You're not going to find the perfect life partner, right? You're going to find someone that's going to be compatible with you and what you want. And that's what I was basically wanting to talk about is that, forget about all the things that are going on in the world. We don't know what's going to happen. But if you have that mindset, this is what I want, then, you're obviously going to, get there because, it's understanding your situation. And, like I said, you need to look at what you want in your life as opposed to reacting to what's going on in the world. You don't want to be like reacting to, certain things that you can't control. And there's a lot of things in the world that you can't control right now, right? So, that's basically what it is. Like you just have to know what you want and go for it. So this is what I recommend to people. Like I said, sacrificing some things, going out, going to restaurants, traveling, and putting that money away and making sure that you're saving for the thing that you really want to do, and that is to buy a home. So, don't worry about what's going on. Like the other thing I was going to say is for the mortgage, like a lot of people look at the 5-year term in terms of a mortgage, and you don't necessarily have to lock yourself into a 5-year term. You can go variable. Like if you have a sense that maybe the economy is going to turn around, the interest rates might go down, then don't lock into 5-year. Just go into a variable. And then if the interest rates go down, then you can lock into something that's a little bit, longer term. So, basically I just want to say that don't wait to buy real estate. Buy real estate and wait. It is a long-term strategy, and I can't tell you more than, it's never going to be the perfect time. And that's, what I want to tell, especially first-time home buyers, and that you do have the opportunity, that there's less competition, that, you can put in like a home inspection and an offer. The other thing is make sure that you're working with a good realtor. It's very, very important that you pick the right realtor to help you. Even if you're buying a new home, for example, if you go into a sales office, you can still have a realtor representing you. The realtors that are representing buyers usually get paid by the seller or usually get paid by the builder. So you have something that, has your best interest at heart. They're going to be looking at the contract. They're going to make sure that, if you don't see something in the fine print, they can help you, with that kind of stuff. Also maybe get a lawyer to look at, an offer from a builder, because sometimes builders put in these little fine print that you don't see, and, you're not aware of it until later. So just don't go into a new home site and just sign an offer without having representation. So representation is very, very important. When you're buying a home, don't necessarily think that you're going to get a better deal if you're going to be dealing with a listing agent. You want to be represented by somebody that has your best interest, that someone's going to look out for you. That is such an important thing for buyers to look at, and having the proper representation. So there's going to be more inventory, and so when you're looking at this kind of market, there's a lot of uncertainty. You just want to make sure that you plan it out, that you have the experts. It's so important to have experts, to have the right realtor, to have the right mortgage broker, to have the right lawyer. You're going to surround yourself with experts, right? And you're going to do as much research that you can for yourself, but you're also going to make sure that you surround yourself with the experts, that they're going to help you. And, there's no cost to you to have a buyer agent that's going to represent you. So it's, like I said, there's so many things that you can do to save money, to, like, I know people talk about this all the time. Don't go to Starbucks. Like when I go to Starbucks, it's a treat, right? You go to the restaurant, it's a treat. So if you can't have it all, you can't be traveling the world and want to buy a house, right? And a lot of younger people, and I don't want to say anything negative about it, but you can't have everything when you're young. Like, so if you want to travel, do the traveling, get that out of the way, but make sure that if you have that long-term goal in mind, that you're going to, have that plan. You're going to save a little bit. Save at least 10 to 20% of your pay automatically in a savings account, right? You won't even see it. You won't notice it. So, and like I said, there's so many different programs that the government's offering: HST rebate, RSPs. You can borrow from your RSPs. You can go TFSA, automatic from your checking into savings. So these are all the little things that you can do in order to, make sure that you are planning for the future. Planning for the future is, looking at all your investments. Like I said, you want all of it. You want real estate to be part of that portfolio, right? So, that's basically what I wanted to cover today in focusing on the buyers, revealing what goes on behind, the real estate industry. There's so many things that you can do to get into that home ownership and make sure that you are like looking at, different areas, different neighborhoods. And that's why you need to hire a really good realtor. I'm in the Niagara area. If you are interested, there's no pressure. You can call me anytime and, I'll answer any questions that you have. But, like I said, it's important that you have the experts helping you and, that you're financially ready. And if that, like I said, that plan takes a couple of years, then start your planning now and make sure that you talk to the right people and, seize this as an opportunity to get into the market. And, it's never the right time. Again, we never have the perfect scenario in life. It just happens. Sometimes you just have to jump, make that, take that risk, and it pays off in the long run. And the other thing is, once you get into real estate, you could buy something, maybe rent the basement, so there's so many different scenarios in terms of, I can buy this first home or whatever, or I can move up into this home. You can borrow off the equity once you get into real estate. There's so many benefits to buying your home. So, if you're moving up, if you're downsizing, it's just really just part of planning. But I would never wait just for the market to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. So I think that's about it. I think I've covered mostly everything. I just wanted to kind of have that conversation. The next couple of episodes, I'm thinking maybe doing some interviews, I'm going to have some guests on. I haven't figured that out yet, but I'm going to probably have some guests so I can have conversations. And I find that is very beneficial to have some people come in, maybe some people that have businesses in Niagara. So I'm gonna be working on that, and I think that's it. It's exciting, and I love doing this, and I love to help people. And if I can help you in any way, let me know. I'm here. You can DM me anytime, but don't forget, it's never the right time to buy real estate. It's always a good time to get in there and just go for it. All right. Okay, guys. We'll see you next time, next week. I'll see you then.